No run, no nothing.
Oh, we started. I'm like, go ahead.
What's up, family? Listen, we are so excited as always to have you here. Welcome to The Well Encounter, live from the Amplify Network. You are watching The Well Encounter live now. Welcome, welcome Carolyn. Yo, Brennan's on. I see you. Jawan. Hey, Jawan. Jawan, listen, when are you gonna give me your information, man? We got so much stuff going on behind the scenes that I need your information for. I'm just starting to think you just don't want to share. But we still, of course, we always love to see you. Bacardi, I mean, no, that's actually Raphael. Raphael, good to see you. Uncle Willie,
what you
good to see you.
What do you think about?
What you mean?
You said Bacardi. What you think about?
No, that is his name.
Okay.
That's his name.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I'm about to say, what you think? You done messed up somebody's name?
Okay. Hey, Tammy, good to see you, Tammy.
My mistake.
Listen, Tammy, you want to stay on because we have somebody that you know who's on with us. So we do want you to stay on, Tammy. And I see Mama Helen Ellis is on as well. So good to see her. Listen, actually, I'm so glad. Listen, Gethsemane is on tonight. You know what? Unless and our special guest might have shared us in his church group.
True too.
So that's always a way for them to see us as well.
As of right now, we don't know.
Guys, like and share the broadcast. They'll be on in a few seconds. Keep on hitting that share button.
Okay.
We're back. Whatever. I don't know. I know we're moving kind of slow, but I'm hoping that for all you guys, you're seeing us in real time.
Look really digital right now.
I know we look really, really digital.
Go Tech Crew.
Yo, so tonight is unfortunately I do have some bittersweet. Actually, can you guys let us know if it seems like we're coming in clear for you all? Us, it does seem a little choppy. but let us know if it's coming in,
We've
guys.
officially been chopped and screwed, chopped. You don't know nothing about that. That's that Texas music. You don't know. That's that down south. You don't know nothing about that.
I know about that.
See, nah, you don't know nothing about that, boy. You don't know nothing about that.
Miss Nikki, is that a note we're not coming in that clear?
I think so, because I'm looking at the video and it's still like, yeah. So we're gonna get it. Trust me. We're on it. A little staticky. Oh man, they would try to try to play the day, won't they?
I know. Super producer Jackie, I don't know if we I don't know what to do. Carolyn says somewhat clear. So that means that it sounds like you guys can.
Can you log back in? We'll bring in our guest, and I haven't introduced.
Okay, cool.
The voice of God. Amazing. I'm gonna say it wouldn't be your signal, would it, bro?
Okay,
bet.
Looks like there we go.
Here we go.
Pastor Ron, how are you, man?
Hey, what's up? I'm great. How are you doing? How are the both of you doing?
We're doing good, man.
Good.
It looks like we were doing some Matrix stuff. This is all so for our viewers. This is all in gathering us and getting us ready for the new Matrix movie that's coming out. Surprise!
Yo.
The Well does the Matrix.
Who knew? Who knew?
Who knew?
That was a good way to try to come out.
Listen. Listen. Well, as you guys can see, our guest is the amazing, wonderful, super fantastic, spectacular Brother Reverend the Ron Triplett from Gethsemane United Methodist Church, and the crowd goes wild. Woo! Welcome to the Well, Pastor Ron.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's good to be here tonight. Good to be here with you, Pastor Ray. Good to be here with you, 3J. I am a great supporter of the Well, and I'm glad to be included, have been invited to be on tonight.
Oh, yes. That's gonna that echo will quiet down in just a second. So, Pastor Ron, we welcome you here. Let me just go over a few things. I do want to share, as always, you guys know that this is on the Amplified Network. That the Well is a creative arts and conscious awareness faith community that you can be a part of. And I know before Miss Nikki hops on us and jumps on us that
we had to get everything together first. Like, she can't do that today.
Listen, it's
we
true.
Can't get that disclaimer today. However, the 5 P's.
That's right. The 5
Purpose,
P's.
promise, passion, power, and peace.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
All right. So now we don't get.
Listen, and I'm excited that our boy Brennan is on because Brennan B is going to be flying up to the city.
Hey!
And so we're looking forward to seeing him here in person over the weekend.
Gang.
And so safe travels to both him and Kathy. All right. Listen, Miss Nikki said we're safe today. Listen, tonight's conversation is a good one. We are talking about, and the flyer that 3J made so eloquently as he always does, we're talking about Christmas or Xmas and holiday hot topics.
Holly jolly Christmas.
And we
it's
are
next
ready.
week, yo.
Yeah, Christmas is definitely next week.
This year.
Pastor Ron, are you ready for Christmas?
I am definitely not ready for Christmas.
Oh, you didn't do all your Christmas shopping?
I have not, and I probably won't until December 23rd.
Or you can always catch them after Christmas sales.
The after Christmas, I do that too. December 26th.
Hey, look, I'm a fan of them. That's another Black Friday.
Listen, for all the people who I don't see on Christmas, they will definitely get gifts bought for them after Christmas.
Brother said he bought one gift.
I know who that's for. But listen, tonight we're talking about Christmas. So let's just start off. Like I guess the first question, and you know, those of you all who are on, we'd love for you to answer in the chat. Again, if you're watching, share this on your Facebook page. Make sure you share it. Make sure if you're on YouTube, you share it. Send it to your folks. Listen, Pastor Ron, Tammy says, don't forget her gift.
Oh,
So make sure you've got her included in those gifts.
She's included. You're included, Tammy. You're included. That December 23rd list.
plus
That's
tax.
That's it. Yeah, Brandon says plus tax. Listen, we're talking about Christmas, and so let's just start off. I mean, I want to ask you both, like, what does Christmas mean? And if you're on, again, you can answer and respond. But what does Christmas mean to y'all? Like, what does Christmas mean for you? And not just like don't give me don't give me the world answer. Like, well, to me, Christmas mean like. But like really, for you, every year,
So let me
what does it mean for you?
So let me rethink my answer since you said we can't do that. I have to rethink my answer.
Yeah, no. Give me like your
Ron,
response.
you go first because I got to rethink now since he said we can't. Well, Christmas to me, I have to change my whole approach now. So you can go first.
Well, here's what I'll say. Christmas means to me No, Christmas does for me mean, or Christmas, the significance of Christmas is the coming of Jesus into the world, and from a faith standpoint, it does mark mark the significance of God being made flesh and dwelling among human beings. So that's a significant thing, and it's okay to mark to mark the beginning of, or Jesus's beginning on the earth. And on another side, just on a cultural side, and that's what Christmas is more so to me, is more cultural than religious. It is a celebration. It's a family celebration. So I find myself in and around with family, or those who are considered chosen family for me at Christmas time. So those are the two meanings, the two significances of Christmas for me.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think I see Brennan says family time. Listen, Brennan, the link is always up, man. You can always hop on the link whenever you want
jump
to, man.
on. I think he said he about to be on the plane though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Brennan says family time.
He's at the airport.
Especially since I moved from home, it's one of the few times I get to go home. So yeah, that's dope. I think for me, right, like, it's of course everything I think that Reverend Ron said, but I think also, like, I don't know, maybe just like it's sentimental, that of like it's a time to sort of remember. Like, I like to remember the past. I like to remember or recall and sort of review my year. I know a lot of people do that on New Year's. Around Christmas, I start to reflect, right? I start to reflect about like what has been. So it's a reflection time for me. And I think, like Brendan said, also a family time of gathering. Of course, also, like, some of the traditional things like celebrating Jesus' birth and some of the plays and type of that stuff, music stuff, is always really, really cool for me too. Yeah.
That's what's up. I gotta give my answer now, don't I?
Yeah.
Oh, well, y'all two done gave the answers. Why not y'all just go with y'all? But, why not? But no, I honestly see Christmas is Thanksgiving part 2. So, and the reason why I say Thanksgiving part 2, because it's another family holiday. And Thanksgiving and Christmas, they're really back to back, probably no more than a month away from each other, maybe 29 days, almost a month. But still, it's the second part of the end of the year where family gets together. This time, this tradition will be giving this time to one another instead of being thankful. You know what I'm saying? So, and then on the spiritual aspect, the birth of Christ. And I know that's so cliche because y'all done both said that. Like, I don't have nothing. I have nothing like spectacular to kind of word that. So, but no, really just the remembrance of Christ, as Reverend Ron said, the one that decided for himself to come down and sacrifice. Who wouldn't want to remember a man like that, let alone as a spirit like that? Like, who wouldn't want to remember something like that, right? Because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be here. Yeah. Right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So just with family and Christ, that's all it is to me at the end of the day.
I want to say hello to Sheila, who just hopped on as well. Sheila Jefferson Rivers. And again, if you're just hopping on, take time to comment. Let us know you're here. And don't forget to share this on your page or share this with friends. If you're on YouTube, hey, to our YouTube watchers as well. Miss Nikki says, I see Christmas more so as celebrating the fruits of kindness and giving, as well as spending time with loved ones and gathering together as we begin to culminate the end of another year. Jawan says, family time and the birth of Jesus. We weren't allowed to believe in Santa from birth, loud laugh out loud, not necessarily super spiritual, but my mama wasn't going to work to buy gifts and giving credit to a fat white man. I love it.
We will never have a dull moment.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Brennan says, "Power." Shout out to Mom Dukes. So listen, we all kind of have brought up this whole we all have brought up this Jesus figure, and we talk about.
You said this Jesus figure.
Yeah, this Jesus figure, and we talk about Christ. So it's interesting because, all right. So some scholars will say, right, that Christ was not really originally born in December. Right.
So I'm kind of iffy about that as well, because he was born in a manger in the cold.
Well, we'll get to that, but so I'll ask the rest of my question.
Right.
Do you think more research should be done to determine when Jesus was actually born, and if so, do you think we should change the date of celebrating his birth to be more accurate?
God, you would just go so profound and all of that. Like, why you had to layer it like that? All my questions, yes, though. All of them, yes. I believe. If we're going to do it right, get it right. That's just me. Maybe.
Well, Pastor Ron, I'm going to let you answer. I will say Miss Nikki does give it. Brennan says yes and yes.
See, there we go, bro. Thank you, bro.
Miss Nikki does say that I'm curious how we came up with this theory, because science and research shows Jesus actually wasn't born on December 21st, 5th, but our church culture has assimilated this belief. And I see the answers actually coming in yes and yes and yes.
Here y'all go. Yes, I love y'all well,
because we can agree to disagree. Yeah. Pastor Ron, what do you feel?
So my research has shown me that Jesus was probably born in the spring or the summer, maybe like somewhere around August, as late as August, perhaps. And that is 3J. You brought up a good point about Jesus being born in a manger in a cold season. That probably might not have happened. Shepherds might not have been in the field watching their sheep in the wintertime or in a time of cold. So those would point to another time of year. So should there be more research? Sure. I think that there should always be scholarly research, theological research about those things, so that we can get as close to the truth, as close to accurate as possible. I think that, research would say, or history would say, the way that we got here was not through marking the actual birth as far as being accurate, historically accurate as far as the day that Jesus was born. It was more of a cultural thing. So that's how we got here to December 25th. But I'll wait for that part of the discussion. But sure, no, I don't think that Jesus was born on December 25th. But it doesn't matter to me. We just celebrate that he came into the earth. That's kind of how I've rationalized it out. I celebrate him coming from glory into the earth.
Yeah, I like that answer.
It's kind of interesting because I too had to go back and kind of remind myself of what I did know and what I didn't know. I think that it would be great to have the research to see if we could pinpoint the actual date. I definitely would love to know if we could pinpoint. Right. I don't know that I personally don't know that I would want to see us sort of just rearrange the date, I just, and when you think about, just kind of refreshing my mind on the history of how we got here. I didn't realize that the season of Christmas has had a very tumultuous sort of path in how we've gotten to celebrate it,
Right.
There was, I know that their origins in the winter solstice from the past and whatnot, but just at one point, America had banned, us sort of celebrating Christmas in certain ways, and it was then kind of brought back and then kind of not, and then Brit, and even from its path to Britain, there were moments where it was like, no, we're not doing anything. There are folks that are just like, so I don't know. Like, it seems like it. I know we as people just make things complicated sometimes.
Man,
so it's like I don't know how
understand.
complicated it would be to add another layer. And then I feel like we'd have all these churches that were like, well, no, you gotta really prove that fact to me, and that's blasphemous that we're gonna move the. I just feel like it would just invoke this whole argument that we just don't really need as a church.
So I just got a random question, all because of what Reverend Ron said, that he believes that Jesus was born in spring, summertime. Now, if Jesus was born on your birthday, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, change it."
Well, listen, I just want to give a shout out to Tammy, who said,
"Oh, that's a
yes. Good." I got you. But I don't know if you can see the chat, but Tammy goes, "Yes, Jesus is a Leo." Listen,
personally, I thought Jesus might have been born in June, more like June 6th. That was my thought, but I don't know.
I was just about to say, I think Jesus just might be a Virgo, and I would love to know that. I mean, it would only make sense.
Really? Because they called you Jesus?
Listen,
and you got angel piss and all of that?
I got angel
like, really?
Oh,
okay.
So, Pastor Ron, just so you know, listen, and I'm gonna have to.
His new name is Angel Piss.
So I have to relive this, but I have to give an exclamation to this. If you have not seen the clip that we put up on Facebook and YouTube last week, we were talking about drugs and alcohol, and I shared with folks, because we keep it real here on the Well.
That we do.
That at one point in my life, people did refer to me as having angel piss, which just simply meant that folks who could not go take a urine test for drugs because their urine was dirty, would come to me and ask me if they could use my urine, because they would claim that I had angel piss because it was clean. So, and that was like a moment last week that I will not live down for eternity. However, I do want to say that it was verified on the Instagram page by a comment by somebody who actually knows me. So I just want to share that.
These are things that you want everybody to know. I mean, that's,
listen. I just
facts.
#facts.
Facts.
Listen, Nikki says Pastor Ray will never live.
No, he won't.
Live that down.
He won't. He will not. Not as long as I'm breathing. He won't.
Uncle Willie says no. It doesn't matter when, but it does matter that he was. And December is as good a time as any to celebrate love sent to earth.
Yeah, Clock. I agree. Not just because you want Uncle either.
Miss Nikki says, I agree, but if that's the case, then can't we and shouldn't we celebrate that notion every day than just one day out of the year if it doesn't matter, and we're just revering the fact that he was born on earth? Do y'all think we could do a Christmas like every day? Like some sort of like celebration like every day?
Now, what are we grasping to? Are we grasping towards the holiday or the celebration of Jesus' birthday?
I guess like a celebration of Jesus' birthday.
Yeah, that's every day. Why not? If we wake up celebrating every day we wake up, why can't we wake up?
But do you think they would kind of take the like specialty out of like the one season that we dedicate towards
it's Jesus. I don't think you can take anything away from him.
That's just how it's like if you celebrate, I don't know.
I don't think you could. It's Jesus. Like,
so let me say that Christmas is not the highest point on the church's calendar. It's not Christmas, and so Christmas was not the day that Christians celebrated and highlighted in the early days of Christianity. It's really the resurrection that we celebrate. We are a resurrection people. So what makes us unique as Christians is the resurrection. So it's fine to celebrate Jesus' birth every day. I'm all for it. I'm all for getting a gift every day. I mean, giving gifts, yes, every day. That would be great too, because it's greater to give than to receive. However, let's not lose the thought that Christmas is great. Celebrating Jesus' birth is great. But one thing that we as Christians embrace is the fact that Jesus did what no other human has done, had done, or will ever can do, and that is be resurrected from the dead. So I just want to put that in there.
That was great.
So
that was great.
Speaking of, so we talk about celebrating Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and we talk about this. Right, we do recognize that the resurrection is that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and we celebrate his birth, right,
Mhm.
because of the fact that it led to the resurrection.
Resurrection.
When we talk about celebrating his birth, do you all think that um, Christmas has become too commercialized, right? Because now, right, Christmas, and I mean, Christmas is the birth of Christ has gone through so many, or the celebration of the birth of Christ has gone through so many different transformations. So, right, there are some people who say, right, just we should just have a service. We should maybe go out and give. But we've gotten very consumed with Christmas trees and Santa Claus and making sure that we buy gifts, and even singing like Mariah Carey Christmas songs as opposed to say hymnal Christmas songs.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will say, right, like a lot of churches will not let you or allow you to sing more secular Christmas songs. They focus on the spiritual. But I guess the underlying question is, to which Miss Nikki says yes already, is has Christmas become too commercialized?
I believe to an extent it has. I believe because it's so based on more of how much you're going to spend and how much you're going to get for a person is really taking the meaning out of Christmas. Because it's more about shopping now. It's more about spending your money. Get this, get that. Or we need the latest in this and we need the latest in that. And honestly, forgot the true meaning of what Christmas actually is. So, with everything being promoted how it is now, yes, it has come to commercialize. And I'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Mm-hmm.
Because how we,
Mm-hmm.
spend money.
Mm-hmm. Pastor Ron, what you think?
So yeah, I think that Christmas is very commercialized, and we have to be careful. The individuals have to be careful not to get caught up in the hype, right? And so we allow ourselves to get caught. When we allow ourselves to get caught up in the hype, then it then becomes watered down for us. And like 3J said, it becomes all about gifts and spending money and things like that. Just like any other day. Someone could take somebody could take their birthday and celebrate and emphasize a party so much that they neglect to see the power of the day of just celebrating life and being alive.
Good.
So yeah, Christmas is commercialized, but we have the choice as to how we will participate in the madness, so to speak. And yet, and with it becoming commercialized to the general public, it then becomes watered down, right? Because for me, it's about Jesus, and sure, God is love, and we celebrate love, but it's about Jesus coming down into the Word being made flesh and dwelling among us. And so, if we through the commercialization of the culture, if we allow that to be lost, then we have lost the meaning of the day. And that's what happens for a lot of us sometimes, even in church, that's what happens.
Yeah. There are some great comments coming in. Pastor Byron, I see you. One of the things that I want to go to is Miss Nikki says it's become a commercialized spectacle, especially when you're talking about the Christmas productions at church service. Ooh. It's so interesting here.
Oh wow!
That's such a deep comment because
God, that's touchy.
On one hand, right, like
God, that's touchy.
It's really touchy, touchy sort of thing, Miss Nikki.
Like
because,
doing it, working, the whole thing is
because touchy. I would say, right, like a lot of churches have really become these places that love to sort of put on their production, and it means something for the people to put on their productions every year. I mean, we see even some of the bigger churches in our own area that do the church plays and the church stuff,
the Christmas concerts,
right? But I mean, we've talked about this before on the well, how you can kind of, in whether you're a business or person, you can become addicted to almost anything.
Absolutely.
And I wonder, right? Like, do even some of those things that we do, thinking that we're celebrating Christ, sometimes become more of a hassle and more of a spectacle, as Miss Nikki said, and less of an actual celebration and honor to who we're celebrating. What do y'all think about that?
So I think it's all about intention. It's all about intention. So when it be to when we get too caught up in the production on top of the reason for the production, then we've lost it. We've lost it, and then the season just becomes about you and your church and the living Christmas tree, your church and the this and the that. I don't want to talk about anybody's Christmas production because somebody's is coming up this coming Sunday at 10 o'clock. But anyway.
Don't snitch on nobody. Don't snitch on nobody. Look, we got you.
But what time is it again?
At 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I'm not pushing it. I'm just saying. But no, seriously, it's about intention. So we all have to be aware, and we have to be careful not to make productions and the accoutrements of the season, the object of our celebration, and so that we take our focus off of Jesus. When we take our focus off of Jesus, then there's a whole problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. Follow up, because I've worked productions and stuff like that, so I'm absolutely on what Reverend Ron was saying. When you start worrying about the attention, the money, and just the show, and you forget the reason of how you're able to put it on, that's when it just falls. It just completely just, okay, whatever. So yeah, I'm with Reverend Ron on that.
It's so tough though, because it's like there is, and so okay, coming from this from a standpoint of an actor and somebody who has performed in productions and helped to put on productions, it's tough, and I'm even wrestling with this within my own self as I answer this and think about it, because like like to put on a good production, you really do have to engross yourself in the production, right? Like you do want to make sure you put on the best production possible. You want to take care of the business, and honestly, this conversation can also go into like even doing church itself, right? But like you want to make sure that it goes well. You want to make sure that whatever you're doing for Christ is done to the best of your ability.
Absolutely.
So there is a part of you, and there's a part of your team that has to really engross itself. But there's also this like place of like, like you could get so caught up in it that you sort of lose yourself, and you lose the meaning altogether. Like, and I think the intention is there, and I think you're right, Pastor Ron. It has to be, the intention has to be good. But even in the intention, folks sometimes get so caught up in it, right? Like it's like, how much pressure should we apply to the folks who are participating, right? How much glam and glitter should we put up, right? Like how much business should we attend to for it? And then is there a place where, like addiction, you get so caught up in doing it right that it just becomes this ritual, synced into this tradition that grows into this place of stillness, right? Because it's just then it becomes pressure. Like, oh, we did play last year, we got to do a play this year. And everybody's like, you're not a good pastor if you don't let us do the play we did last year. You're not a good Christian if you don't let us put on the production that we put on 10 years ago. And for the last 10 years, that means you're not a good Christian. And we get caught up in that. And we get, it's easy to get there.
So my question would go, are you not good just because you're not going by their protocol, or just because of what they want in that sense? Are you not good not because of that?
I mean, but some people will curse you out for not.
But I think that's crazy to cuss them out. Well, you know what? It's not crazy, because we cuss each other out now for not getting what we want. So that makes perfect sense. So I retract all that. Go ahead. You're right.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
No, I was gonna say, having been pastoring for some years now, like this Christmas time is a pretty large season, and if as a pastor, if I let myself get caught up in everything that you're saying, then it's all of that. You got to have. When I served in one type of congregation, you had to have Christmas Eve service. Like that was a thing. You had not had church all year unless you had Christmas Eve service. Or in another congregation, just a Christmas production of some kind, and so there is that pressure of trying to have some type of trying to keep up with the Joneses, really trying to keep up with
Yeah.
the Joneses and have this
Yeah.
great production, so that you can show how you and your congregation celebrate the birth of Jesus. So I've had to really bring myself in and refocus over the years, as far as, coming from a ministry standpoint, refocus on how I emphasize what we have to do in the celebrations we have to have, like having 5 Christmas parties in a year and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just had to refocus. I'm gonna leave that alone. Praise the Lord.
So, so Pastor Ron, with your point, and actually I want to ask you too, bro. When y'all get this pressure, is it sometimes good pressure, or is it that they're really on me about this? Like, how is that pressure? Could it be good? Could it be bad? Could it keep you on your toes? Could it discourage you, make you not want to do it anymore, make you more into doing it? Like, what kind of pressure do you get from that?
I think anything, any kind of pressure can bring out the best or worst of you. You really have to determine how you're going to look at the glass, if it's half full or half empty. So it is a pressure, and it's sometimes internal more than external, right? So it's kind of like, what are we doing? What are we going to do this year to top what we did last year? And then
Mm-hmm.
seeing what your colleagues are doing, what your colleagues' churches are doing, to say, oh, well, we can do that too. I can do that too. Well, we can invite this person too. So a lot of that is internal, and then you get to the external of people saying, well, can we do a Christmas play? Can we do a Christmas musical? Can we do this? Can we do that? Or, so it's both internal and external. And so it can be bad if it moves you to trying to keep up with the Joneses and break your bank, trying to,
Mm-hmm.
have this great big production without losing the intention of celebrating Christ, or it can bring you into focus, so you can be very intentional by saying, we will do this and we will use this to celebrate the birth of Jesus, along with ministering to the community, along with emphasis on a community service, some type of giving, specialized giving, more than what we have done, in the year.
So
I hope that
I'm
answers the
trying
question.
I'm trying not to get y'all in trouble. I promise I won't.
Okay.
So you mentioned keeping up with the Joneses, and I think that was the perfect way to fall into my question. Do you feel within the Christmas season with churches in general, we should do you think we should be competing with one another when it comes to any festival, any holiday spirits, or anything of that sort? Like, do you really think that's necessary? I know, like I said, I'm not trying to start nothing, but I'm just because I've noticed when he said
No,
that, we're trying to keep up with each other. It's like there's a lot of churches that do compete with each other when it comes to shows and stuff. So, is should we be doing that?
And I do want to, before you answer, I just want to say, Pastor Byron down in Texas, he says, I understand, Pastor Ron.
thank
He
you.
definitely seems
Thank you,
to be
Pastor Byron.
understanding.
Thank you. And what? Nobody, we don't compete. Nobody competes in the kingdom of God. What are you talking about, bro? What are you saying? But we do try to keep up with one another. So we see somebody over here who's got some good voices, and we know that we have some comparable good voices. We're like, okay, well, that's great. We went over there to your thing. That's great. We can do the same thing over here. And it can start from a pure place, but then you're like, well, we could do this. We can add on to this. We can make it bigger and better, And so it's not, I can't, it's a whole wide spectrum. So everybody's not competing. Some people just want to express their gifts, and they do have, and
Absolutely.
God has given us gifts to express. And
Mm-hmm.
so I believe the story ought to be told in many different ways, in many different forms, in many different locations. So yeah, I believe the story should be told by different people. But again, it goes back to your intention as far as, why are you doing this? And you have to really keep your why in front of you, in front of yourself and the whole congregation, yourself as a leader, yourself as an actor, yourself as a participant, and those who are gathering as well.
Um,
Angel Piss.
I just want to say this. I want to say that I'm excited. I didn't.
Wow.
It's not going nowhere.
I'm excited to have Pastor Ron on, just because, for you guys who don't know, Pastor Ron is the pastor over, and I didn't say this in the beginning, so forgive me, but he's a pastor at Gethsemane United Methodist Church, which is my home church. So Pastor Ron ultimately is my pastor. But he's just a great guy, and we're just, again,
Look
excited
at the
to have him
teacher
on.
coming to check out a teacher.
Listen, I want to address, I'm going to answer your question by addressing something that Pastor Byron says. It's a multitude of festivals. Look up the history. It's not a holy day that God commands us to celebrate. And he's referring to the actual day of Christmas. And I think, Julian, 3J, you brought up some great questions. And I think that is a good conversation because so much of the well this year, we've talked a lot about getting caught up in the traditions of church.
Right.
Miss Nikki, we talk about that a lot too, right? And so, like, I think that every season we can, if we're not careful, and I think Pastor Ron, that word intention is so important. Every season we can get caught up in some sort of tradition, and tradition is not always a bad thing.
Right.
I always like to say that tradition is not always a bad thing. However, I think we have to stop a lot of times, like a relationship, and say, "Hey, where are we now?" Right? Like, where are we now, and who are we now?
Right.
I share this. There's a couple that on Valentine's Day stood up at a former church I was at, and the question was, how do you sustain your relationship? And the wife said, every year we take a moment at the beginning of the year and we check in with each other. We ask each other, where are you? Who are you now? Right? And what do you feel about this relationship? I think we have to, one, do the same thing with Christ, with God, right? Over and over. God, where am I with God now, right? Who am I in God now? Because I'm growing, I'm evolving. I think, but we also have to do that is not only individually, but collectively as a church, and go, where are we as a church now? Who are we as a church now? What are the things that are working? What are the things that don't work? My grandmother and I have this conversation somewhat kind of all the time, even about the way the church has evolved. But, like, I think it's so important to stop sometimes and say, are we doing this because it is just something that we've done? Or are we doing this because it represents who we are now? Right? And I don't think enough people do that. I don't think enough congregations even take the pulse of their congregations like that. And I will say, I hope that that's something with the well that we do often. I plan on doing it. Like, we have a retreat on Saturday, and that's something.
With that, hold on. Saturday, the Williams, he just gave y'all a question to the quiz. So just be prepared. How do we think we're moving it's a question. So just be prepared.
That's true. That's true.
So but I'm helping y'all out.
I do think we have to think about that, right? Like, what are we putting on these type of productions because it is what we've always done, or because, right, it's who we are now? Are we holding these food drives because it's what we've always done for the last 10 years, or, right, do we have the community to do it now? Are we singing, is a this type of choir, or are we, just all that stuff? It's all the questions that we have to ask ourselves over and over again. I think Christmas is not void of that, right? Like, are we celebrating Christ's birth this way because it's always been done this way, or are we doing it because it's where we are now? Anyway,
I think you have to also be careful of you have to be careful of having traditions versus traditionalism. Tradition is, the habit of doing things, something over and over again with relevance. You all have the well has a tradition of the arts. You have the arts, but now with traditionalism, that's doing things over and over again just because we do it, and just because we've always done it without relevance. And so we just do stuff, and it's not relevant to us anymore, but we keep on doing it. We keep on doing it. Why are you doing it? I don't know, but we got to do it. That's traditionalism. To say for in the instance of Christmas, it's not Christmas unless you have a Christmas tree. Well, why is that? I don't know, but it ain't Christmas unless we have a Christmas tree. So let's do it. So this Christmas tree is not relevant, perhaps, maybe for some anymore. And so that's traditionalism being tied to this, for something to be to be authentic, it's tied to this thing or this action without the relevance. So you have to be careful, to not be tied to traditionalism. It's all right to have traditions, but not necessarily be tied to traditionalism. And that's all across the board. And you talk about the church as far as worship and all that. I'm sure you all we've talked about that before, but in our practices and what we do, we can get tied to doing stuff without relevance. In every kind of church, the most traditional church or the most contemporary church, we can start doing stuff because just because it's always been done, it worked like that last year or whatever, and it has no relevance. And then that means that's when we become tied to traditionalism. We have to be careful of that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Pastor Ron. I even think about it. It's so funny because when we talk about the Christmas tree, for example, I learned, I know the Christmas tree was brought over here by Germany, and it's so interesting because if you go back in the history of the Christmas tree in Germany was this little small thing, right? They didn't have the big trees. It originally started with having these little small trees that they would cut down and put in their living room. So America, if folks don't know this, but
America,
right, America, the USA, America actually was not interested. They were not interested in having Christmas trees. And then I think it was Martin Luther actually who decided, right? Oh no, it wasn't Martin Luther. I'm sorry. The Germans who started to settle here in the country started to ignore America's ruling on not having Christmas trees, and they began to put up Christmas trees. It was, I believe, Martin Luther who started to decorate his tree, and so people started to kind of take that on. But when the country actually embraced the German culture norm of having Christmas trees, America decided to make it its own, as we often do, and we decided to start having trees that went to the ceiling. I'm bringing that up to say, it's so interesting, though, because you have people who would tell you, right, no, it's not a real Christmas if you don't have a big Christmas tree. Like, who wants to have a small Christmas tree? And it's so interesting because we will get caught up in the tradition of a thing without knowing the history of a thing very fast. And I think we do that so often, in not just church, but just in our lives in general, right? Like, well, we got to have a big Christmas tree. Oh, we got to have stockings. Oh, we got to have certain ornaments. Oh, right, and it needs to be done this way. But the history of it, if we take the time to find out, really wasn't that way.
So the funny thing, you mentioned history, and I'm glad you fell into that too. So, and we were just having this discussion. I think it was Mama Helen that said, "Yeah, take Santa out of here. Stop telling our kids lies." Funny thing about Santa, because Santa goes by the name Old Saint Nick.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, you told me there was an actual Saint Nicholas where they got that name from. So who was this cat? Like, do you have the history on that or no?
So Saint Nicholas was born in Turkey around 280 A.D. And he came to notoriety because he gave away all of his inherited wealth to the poor and the sick as he traveled along the countryside. He became known as the protector of children and sailors. And so as time went on, the Dutch began to honor the death of Saint Nicholas, and by long story short, the name Santa Claus comes from the Dutch, how they pronounced Saint Nicholas, and so that's where you get this whole idea of Santa Claus. Now, I don't know if Saint Nicholas was fat. I don't know if he had a white beard. Not so sure if he was born in Turkey. That means he was not purely white. That means he was brown. All of these things, but or whatever. So, how we get to a fat, man with a white beard who might be Caucasian-esque, European-esque, I guess that would happen through the Dutch, but, that's kind of how we got to Santa Claus.
So his picture comes from a political cartoonist named Thomas Nast, who drew on the poem "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," who drew an image of a big sack of toys, and that was where we get the image of. That's how we come to the image of who Santa Claus is today.
Mm.
And that's the power
Yeah.
of imagery of the dominant culture.
Yeah.
Because if we were in a place where the dominant culture were brown people or anything other than what is, then Saint Nick, or there would be another legend, that will be told, and the picture would look different. So
Keep on going, Reverend Ron.
okay, so while Pastor Ray and 3J are coming back on, so that's the origin of Santa Claus would be Old Saint Nick, and that whole North Pole thing and all of that's legend, and it's a tall tale, which is fine, but that's kind of where it came from. Are we back?
Is it really
Yes,
fine?
we're back.
Because you're saying it's fine. It's fine. Is it really fine? Is it really?
But not really.
So let me ask you both. We're getting some good comments here. Like Miss Nikki says, like the original history of Christmas is not a positive one. And she talks about AKA the blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus. Pastor Byron says true. Jawan says we do that when we're out of the tune with the Spirit of God. Tammy says everything we do should be done with the thought of making disciples.
I can't even say the comment I wanted to say about Jesus. But there was no way I believed that he was white from the jump.
So, well, of who, Jesus?
Yeah, I never believed that.
I never believed that either.
What white man was down for a black man?
But
just saying.
there are people who so when we talk about Christmas with the word Christ in it, we know that it eventually changed, and a lot of folks have made it Xmas. Now, I actually had to truly do the research to make sure I understood where Xmas come from, which isn't necessarily a bad thing now that I've learned. But how do you guys feel about the use of Christmas versus Xmas? And I'd love for the folks who are on with us to comment on that as well. But how do you feel about the use of Christmas versus Xmas?
I never, now that you're saying something, I never really paid attention to it for real. Like, now that you're saying something, I've never really paid attention to it. I know a lot of people are like, oh my, how could you not pay attention to something like that? Because they're taking away Christ and everything. I didn't look at that. So, yeah, I didn't look at it like that. So, I don't know how I feel about it now. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to give it some time. That's wrong. Got something though.
Oh wow, you have faith in me. Wow. So I actually prefer using Christmas because it kind of helps to stay focused on what the day is all about. But using Xmas in its original form, X in the Greek alphabet, X is the symbol for Chi, which basically long and the short of the story is that Christians use the letter X as a secret symbol to indicate their membership in the church. So it does not, using it does not necessarily, in its original form, in its original intention, does not take out Christ. But now, if people use it today with the intention of, marking out Christ, not saying Christ or whatever, then that's a problem. So I prefer to spell out Christmas and all of that, because it does remind me that Christmas is about Christ. And while I do read Greek and all that kind of stuff, I don't necessarily use it in my everyday life. So I prefer to say the word and to write the word Christmas.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you, and I'm gonna move right on. I'm gonna keep this up because it just leads me right into where I want to go. So,
by the way, shout out to Google and History.
Listen, History.com is on it, isn't it? I mean, it is dope. History.com is really dope. But listen, I mean, so I wanna stick right there and travel with that um because of the offense that Christ resonates for some folks who are not Christian, right? We have gotten away from, we have sort of taken ourselves into this place where we do now happy holidays instead of Christmas because Christmas has become offensive to so many different people. Okay.
People not of the belief.
People not of the belief. All right. So I just want to know, how do y'all feel about the fact that Christmas offends people? Like, do you as a Christian, like, do you now become more sensitive? And I mean, even our folks who are on, Miss Nikki, I'd love to see Pastor Byron, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you feel like we should retract from saying Christmas? Right? Do you think we should be more sensitive? And before you answer that, right, I want you to think about that from the standpoint of like, so then if we say we have full permission to do that, then Islamic Muslims should have full permission to celebrate what they want to in the school system. Are you saying that Jews should have whatever celebrations they want to in the school system? That any other religion, any other faith and religion should have those same freedoms to celebrate, and your kids should be around all of that. Because, you know, Christians can be real selfish sometimes. Well, should only be Christ in schools, but then when other people practice their faith, it's like, oh nah, my kid ain't gonna be there for that. So I'm just saying, how do you all feel about people practicing their form of Christmas, and us still celebrating our form of Christmas in government and school and all that stuff?
I'll let the teacher go first.
I will say that Raphael says, I say happy holidays when I don't know my audience. So that's kind of a solution he has. But yeah, what do you guys think?
So I do say happy holidays because I want to include all the holidays: Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, Kwanzaa, all of that. So around this time I do, if I'm just in a general setting, I will say happy holidays, but I do mean all of the holidays. Should I be aware that Christmas is offensive? Maybe I should be aware of it, but I'm a Christian, so I celebrate the significant days of my faith, and I will share that. And it just so happens that in the United States, that Christianity is the dominant religion right now, and so we all acknowledge that. In places where Islam is becoming more dominant, they observe those things like Ramadan, and so I don't know. There are particular communities in our cities that would celebrate Ramadan, and that's a thing in their communities. So it is the dominant, it's the dominant religion in their areas, and so you just have to. There's a intermingling of culture and religion that is not going to get untied because our faith is a part of our lives. So am I aware that people are offended by Christmas, by my wishing them or by my celebrating Christmas? Perhaps. Am I concerned about that? I'm concerned that I am being the best representative of Christ possible. So I don't have to be obnoxious when I celebrate and when I wish someone a Merry Christmas. I can be inviting, so, but, otherwise, then if a person is offended, then they should probably find their way not around me around Christmas time.
Yeah, Pastor Byron says, no, don't retract. The reality is most people are not followers of Jesus. Even a percentage of believers have no idea of whom they believe in. Christians in America often overshadows Jesus. Christmas in America often overshadows Jesus' birth. That's from Pastor Byron. What
Absolutely.
You,
let me just say, I'm sorry to cut you off, but this whole commercialism and things like that overshadows Jesus. That's intentional. That's not that's not by accident. That's intentional. That's to make it more palatable for everybody who don't believe. Not everybody believes, right? And so so yeah, like this whole idea of, just celebrating Christmas, I'm celebrating Jesus, and that is offensive. Jesus can be offensive. And so we have to be aware of that. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no. I get it. I guess this is a good point.
I like his answer. I still got an answer?
And Pastor Byron says exactly.
I still got an answer?
Yeah, I got to introduce you and Pastor Byron, man. I think you guys will have a good conversation, Pastor Byron.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Now my answer. So let me be honest. For the record, I am an a-hole. So when it comes to people's opinion, what they think, and I don't care, because I stand on my faith alone. If I believe in Christ, that's just what it is. Ain't nothing you're gonna be able to do about it. I don't care. I don't care what you feel about it. I don't care what you say about it. That's just me. I stand on Christ. That's just that. However, I am cautious not to offend anybody, shall I say, to force my belief onto somebody else. So I am cautious with that. You know what I'm saying? Because with even being a disciple of Christ, you don't want to push somebody off because of what you believe. You want to gradually invite them. You want to, you know what I'm saying, just be open with them, but not force what you have upon them. You know what I'm saying? So with that, I am very cautious about that. When it comes to is it a difference between Christmas and saying it and not a happy holidays? For me, I never really paid attention to it, to be honest. I was brought up on Christmas. Okay, hey, Merry Christmas. Oh, well, it's Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and all these other. Oh, but then Happy Holidays because it's more than one. But when it comes to Christmas, no, Merry Christmas. And just that simple. There's nothing else to it.
Yeah.
Not to offend anybody, but it is what it is.
Miss Nikki said this country is about freedom of religion. Everyone celebrates different things. It's not just one set thing. I agree with Pastor Ron that Happy Holidays is acknowledging the holiday season. But it's not our job to force everyone to follow the ways of Christianity just because that's what we believe. Acknowledge our faith proudly, but also be humble and kind to others in the spirit of Christ.
Yep.
Kind of what you were saying, DJ.
Yep.
Exactly
okay. What I was just
so
saying.
let me ask this question. Because we're getting close to our closing, but I want to ask this question. I know a lot of pastors will preach and they'll say, God is not doing this, or God's not saying this to you because, and I'm very cautious about that because I don't like to say I'm speaking for God, right? Because I don't have that authority all the time. A lot of times it is really Pastor Ray speaking. It is not, I don't know for sure that it is God speaking. I do believe that God can talk to you. I don't believe God has to use me to talk to you. I think sometimes he might, but he doesn't have to. So I'm careful about this. So with that being said, in your opinion, let me phrase it that way, in your humble opinions, when you think about Jesus' birth, us celebrating Christmas, how we celebrate Christmas, whether or not we sing certain songs, whether or not we put up the Christmas tree, however we celebrate Christmas, which has changed. I just want to make sure it's clear that it has changed how we celebrate Christmas year after year after year, culture, as different cultures, whatever. Do you think God is really big? And I think Pastor Byron said something towards this earlier. Do you think Jesus or God is really big on us celebrating his birthday? And do you think that he's very particular about how we celebrate his birthday, in your opinion, with your knowledge?
In my opinion. Before you, Pastor, because I know you're probably going to just go in. So, my opinion, I don't think God cares. I think he cares more about the fact that we recognize what Christ has done and what he has done. Birthday necessarily, how we celebrate it, I don't think he gives two cares about how we celebrate. I don't think he really cares about how we celebrate our birthdays as long as we have fun and enjoy ourselves. However, to remember what Christ did, I think that's the most important thing of everything, to remember that. And again, when we do the communion, it's in a remembrance of me. Not remembrance of my birthday, but remembrance of what I did. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's more important than representing partying or celebrating a birthday. That's just my opinion. Pastor?
3J, I think you summed it up really good. I think you did it better than what I could do, because I think that's a trick question. So bottom line, I think we need to remember what Christ has done. And I don't think it matters, how we celebrate a birth. That's something that we as humans have decided to do. Now, God gets the glory, but we have decided to celebrate the birth of Jesus. He did say, "Do this in remembrance of me. Remember my death my death and resurrection until I come." Not necessarily my birth. Now, having said that, I do want to just lift up. My mind automatically went back to the Hebrew Bible and where God gave instructions about certain celebrations. So I do want to say that it's not that God just doesn't care, period, about what we do and how we celebrate. Because if God did not care, then God would not give instructions to the Hebrews as to how certain things were to be celebrated, certain sacrifices were to be lifted up, and things like that. But that is in the Hebrew Bible. We don't see anything in the Christian text about having to celebrate the birth of Jesus. So from that, I think that is something that we have contrived. And as long as it gives God glory, that's fine. But when it stops giving God glory and it glorifies and emphasizes stuff that humans have created, and shopping, money, gifts, all of that kind of stuff, then that becomes problematic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I totally agree with you, man. It's interesting because you could get into the whole conversation, which I don't want to totally get into. We don't have the time to even get into this conversation, but, there are folks who will say, right, there are scholars who will go, right, like the law, right, was not necessarily written for the Gentiles. It was written for, right, the Jews. And you have people who will say the Old Testament was written for certain people. The New Testament is inclusive of all, whereas the Old Testament might not have been. There are all sorts of conversations there. And but I think we're all, and I think Pastor Byron said this earlier, so I want to go back to that point, but he says, right, there is no commandment about celebrating Christ's birth. There is no commandment about it. It is not written that it's not a command. It is no movement, or Jesus doesn't speak about you should celebrate my birth on this day and this is how you should do it. There's not really too much about celebrating Christ's birth besides those who did it in the moment that it was done,
which were the three kings.
And I think I would want us to make sure that we're clear for those, because there are a lot of folks again who will drive this point down. Well, I think you said it best, Pastor Ron. We didn't put up the Christmas tree, right? We did not we did not adorn the decorations on the door.
Lord have
we
mercy.
did not buy gifts for we did not buy gifts for the senior citizens of the church. We did not put the Christmas play. We didn't bake the cookies for the kids because, right? And I listen, Pastor Ron, I don't want you to say it. Look, 3J that slid off. I don't listen, because y'all know the program here is a little free, so y'all don't have to address this at all. I'm going to address it very nicely for the folks and just say this. Listen, I do want people to remember Christmas is not a commanded holiday. Your baking cookies is not commanded. Your decorations are not commanded. Your Christmas tree is not commanded. Your songs are not commanded. Nothing about Christmas is biblically commanded for celebrating Christ's birth. So all my church folk, that is just something that we as people and humans have taken on, and that we have decided that we want to celebrate in certain ways depending on what culture you're a part of. So please stop getting mad when things are not done your way in Christmas season. All right,
you got weapons around. Right?
Listen, I know. Listen. They go. Listen.
I'm sitting here looking for every piece of weapon I can before they come knocking on your door, boy.
Every week, I think the Well says something that challenges people. But
you said it. I didn't.
Yeah, he said that. Don't come after me. I'm just here.
But I remember a time. I remember a time where I thought Christmas had to be celebrated in a certain kind of way. I had to have a tree. And this is when I was growing up. I had to have gifts. We had to have family dinner. We had to have ham. We had to have potato salad, because that wasn't Christmas until you had, and then a large family gathering. And people were. I can remember older people. I'm not doing anything today. I'm like, oh my God, Jesus. Are you going to hell? Did you backslide? You know, and so yeah, I get both sides, but I guess as I have to your point, you know, Christmas means something much different than to me today, you know, and so I won't tell you what I do and don't do, but I'm not necessarily um I'm not the most Christmassy type of person, you know, like that.
That
You
makes
know,
sense.
even though
I got that.
even though I
And
do have
that's
my Christmas mug out, but you know, I'm just saying, I'm saying it's probably about the only Christmas thing that I have sincerely in my house, you know. So,
well, I just want to share, Pastor Ron. According to our faith, it doesn't look like you're going to hell. Even if you did not celebrate Christmas,
Hey.
it doesn't look like that's a requirement for you not going to.
Right.
thank God, thank God,
Hey,
there's grace for me.
Pastor
There's
Byron just said, I
grace.
do want some cookies, though.
Yeah, Pastor Bauer said he
Hey,
did want some. He said,
hey,
I do want my cookies. I do want my
look,
cookies.
cookies, snickerdoodles. If y'all don't know about that, get hip.
We're gonna
Oh my God.
we're gonna close. I do want to say,
Ooh.
Miss Nikki said, Pastor Ron, to your point, she's asking you a question? Weren't the way the Hebrews were instructed to celebrate specific holidays more so for symbolism of Jesus and what he was going to do until he came and actually completed it? Do you understand her question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, was that a question for me or
Yeah,
was that?
yes, it was. It was.
Because Pastor Ray, it seemed like I think you're the scholar here. You can answer that. Uh, no. So I mean, yeah, that's a Christian way of looking at it. That's a Christian way of looking at it. That the festivals pointed to Jesus. But if we were and that's a way of looking back into history and reading Jesus into history. However, in the context of the Hebrew faith, the Jewish faith, those festivals had specific meanings. And so if you want to be true to their original intent, you know, there was a reason that they celebrated Passover was a specific feast, you know,
Right.
Pentecost was a specific feast, and they all had their significance apart from Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we look at Christmas, we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but we have to recognize that it's historically said that it was picked to be celebrated in this season because of the traditions of winter solstice, which was something that people celebrated. Right, the winter solstice, even the Christmas tree, which comes from the fact that folks were like the Christmas tree could represent this sort of being able to make it through the winter, this year-round life, the renewal of life, the cycle of life, if you will. And so the evergreens represented that cycle of life. Also represented that the seasons would come. A matter of fact, if you really want to go back into history, and this is something I don't even have to go, I think, and look, but we talk about the fact that some of the older folks back in history, those folks believed in the sun gods.
Mm-hmm.
And in their belief of the sun gods, um, the, uh, the winter solstice was celebrated, and so the evergreen trees, were also part of that celebration because the evergreen trees represented that the sun gods would soon come back. Right, there would be a season where things would die off and where the cold would come, but the evergreens represented that the season, right, would come back, where the sun gods would start to reign again and life would be replenished again. So that's actually where a lot of the Christmas tree stuff comes from.
Yeah, you are the scholar.
No, I actually
I told you.
You are the scholar.
But yeah,
so now to your point, you know, there's a whole bunch of like pagan, when people say there are a lot of pagan symbolism that is found, that has been included in the Christmas holiday season, and it's good to know all of that so that you're not tied to those things. But then if you're somebody like me, I can find God everywhere. You know, I can
I like that.
find the Most High God everywhere. You know, so who is the Son? Who is the Son? Who is the Sun that lights the city? Jesus. You know, and you can go on through that. So yeah, it does have pagan roots. These certain things have pagan roots, and you know, for someone who would say, you know, it's just too pagan for me to celebrate, I would not argue with that at all.
Yeah. So it's so funny. We got to close, but I was going to say that, like, in some ways, when you talk about the fact that the pagans worship the sun god, and so we get into this whole evergreen thing and the winter solstice, and I asked the question earlier, like, does God get upset when we don't celebrate? God might actually get upset that we do celebrate in some of the ways that we celebrate.
Yeah.
If you think about it, right? He's like, if you knew the history of where that comes from,
Yeah.
God might be like,
Nigga,
no. You know what I'm saying? So just it's just important to kind of know your history about some of that stuff, man.
Absolutely.
Listen,
And not be tied to stuff just because you've always done it. You know, it's good to know the history and not be tied into traditionalism. But if you're going to practice something, find the meaning and make it relevant and make it meaningful to you.
Absolutely.
You know, period.
That's probably the best advice. That was
the
best advice. That was a closing right
Listen,
there.
so my last question was going to be, what advice do you have for folks to make sure that they keep the true meaning of Christmas alive in their hearts, and alive within their family and their households, and in their communities? I mean, you kind of just answered it, so you jumped ahead, but it was a good jump ahead. So I appreciate that. Do you have anything else to add, oh great wise Pastor Ron?
Oh wow, I'm now old.
I'm sorry. O-L-E. O-L-E.
Oh, which is Old English for old. Anyway. So there really is no Christmas without Jesus, and so we do celebrate Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, then make sure you keep Jesus as the center of your celebration. But then as we move forward, Jesus should be the center of our lives. And when Jesus is the center of your life, then you celebrate, to 3J's point earlier in our time together, then every day is a celebration of Jesus's birth, his life, his death and resurrection. So our lives should be centered around Jesus. Our lives should be centered around Jesus, his coming into the earth, and the fact that our faith says he's coming back again. We did not mention that within this conversation, but that's a part of this. For Christians, that's a part of this whole celebration, is the thought that somewhere, somehow, that Jesus will come back again and take us, rapture us up. So those are important things. And if you keep that as the center, then everything else will you'll either lose a significance, or it will gain greater significance, one or the other.
Yeah. Got anything?
Listen, Pastor Ron, you did an amazing. Thank you for having us on the show today. I think that was our best. Let's get ready to go ahead and just go ahead and tie this up. It was great. We had an amazing year.
Yeah, Pastor Ron, thank you for having us on the well this evening.
Who's to say anything to that? Like,
Pastor Byron says, preach. Listen, we want to thank you all for being a part of the well for this year. To all our Wellians, listen, again, we cannot do this without your support. And whether that means like people like Miss Nikki, who just keep the comments loaded, Brother Jawan, who keeps the comments loaded for us, Helen Ellis, and even our folks who are with us on YouTube.
So, can we celebrate?
Can we celebrate what?
Can we celebrate?
Celebrate what?
We just did a whole year, son.
Listen, we should be celebrating. Listen,
come on now.
Year.
That's it. Yeah. It's been an amazing year. And honestly, I don't, right? So I've been a part of the well forever, but I do want to say to my co-hosts, Brennan and 3J, who literally, this really does fulfill a year for you guys, your first year.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing ride.
Oh,
it's been pretty dope.
And then the Wellians that joined us.
And the Wellians who have been a part of this and made it amazing.
This has been crazy.
Miss Nikki and Pastor Byron and
Jawan
and Helen Ellis and
everybody.
And Grandma and
Mama
and
Dad,
Uncle Willie
and Jordan Den. Just the squad, just the Turk. Everybody just coming in.
And
Pastor Tay.
And listen,
Miss Kim.
Both Miss Kims. And
Kim B and Kim
and
Cox.
the Amplified Network, Jackie and Terrence, and what better way to finish off with the amazing, incomparable Reverend Ronald Triplett.
I mean,
right?
and came in this thing
Who
with
came in
knowledge.
and closed this out. We started the year big and we ended the year big, and you have spit such great knowledge for folks, and I think this was so important for people to be able to celebrate Christmas, but also to have to kind of yes, and listen, and Grandma in the background said Miss Mary Riley, who also has been a big support. Listen, she's gonna make sure we remember. Grandma, but you're gonna have to step up because that echo is bad for us. So yes, we want to acknowledge all the folks who have made this a special year. Dr. Tony Keys, Brother LeVar Jones, Brother Jason, just all the folks. I can go on and on. Man, that's a long list. This is our
you've had a big year. You've had Bishop Latrell Easterling on this year as well. Wow, that's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal. We've had State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy on. We have had Dr. Tony Hunt and Dr. Joe Daniels and Latasca Nelson, and I mean just such Pastor a great year. Pastor Richard and Pastor Anthony and Angela.
We've had so much. It's been fun.
And Pastor Joey. Just such a great year and so many great conversations that we've had in this year. And so we celebrate with you guys who have all been a part of this. And I'm telling you, this Saturday, and Sister Tammy, who's on tonight, this Saturday, the squad is going to get up, and we're going to, Brendan's flying up. We're going to have a great conversation about 2022, our dreams and our plans. So listen, if you have anything that you'd like us to cover, and I'll begin to put this up on our stuff, our social media, we'll begin to put this up on our stuff. Share that with us. Let us know what you want to talk about. Nothing. Can you believe that we represent the church and we're saying this? Nothing is off limits.
Nothing.
We're willing to talk about anything you want to talk about.
We want you on here.
We will even have you on
talking about what you want to talk about.
If you can have great conversation. And of course, those of you all who are part of the comments, we want to keep you there too, and keep that commentary on fire, because y'all have killed it in the comments. Brendan's mom has been on. Yep. So we just thank you. And we could not do this without you.
Thank all of y'all.
We thank God for this vision and for our mission. And if you want to support financially, because we always can use your support there, you know how to do it. You can text us. The number is 84321. Any dollar amount, just like it is in the picture. Listen, send us something special for the holidays, y'all. We really could use it. We are tomorrow. There is an event happening for our nonprofit, the One Love Life Center, which you will begin to hear more about. You can actually, One Love Life Center. You'll see more of that on our page. There's an event tomorrow night for those of you all who might be in the city. It's in Suitland. For those of you all who stay up late, it starts at 9 o'clock. I might put that up on our post as well. If you want to know more, just reach out to me. All of our Texas folks that have on with us all the time, we love you. Check out our website, www.encounterthewell.org. That's another way you can give. You can go to the last tab, which is Give. And then follow us on all of our social media platforms. Everything is branded Encounter the Well. Both Instagram and Facebook are branded with Encounter the Well. Listen, we love you guys. It's been a phenomenal year. And to Jackie and Terrence, we go late sometimes, but we want you all to know at the Amplify Network, we love you. Follow the Amplify Network. They're doing some amazing things both morning and evenings. And Pastor Byron and Brother Triplett, I have decided in this conversation that I am going to have you both on in the 2022 year together. Because I think you guys have some like spirit going on. And I want to get you guys in contact with each other because it sounds like you guys really can come into an agreement. So Merry Christmas to you, Pastor Byron, and all of the folks down in Texas. We love every last one of you guys. And until next year, listen, there is nothing you can do about it. Merry Christmas.
We love y'all.
Happy holidays and Happy New Year. Pastor Ron, thank you so much.
See y'all next year.
Thank you. Be blessed, everybody.
Gang, gang. Black at it again, black at it the one.
That's it.